Yesterday, Ludion finally released the third blog post and preview of the new RimWorld Odyssey DLC, which has brand new information and previews about all the new animals being added to RimWorld in this new DLC, and many other things. But without further ado, let's just jump right on in. Alright, so we are only 1 week out from Odyssey's release. I think this is the second to last blog post that we'll be seeing, if I'm not mistaken. I read ahead towards the end of this post just a little bit earlier just to see. It looks like we have one more right before the new DLC releases sometime this coming week, so that's pretty hype and something to look forward to. So, right off the bat here, Odyssey is adding over 40 new animals to the world. Absolutely amazing. We love new things in RimWorld, especially animals that we can tame and stuff like that. Awesome. Looks like you can tame, train to work, trade for silver, bring in caravans, or raise into a loyal pack of bodyguards. Pretty standard stuff that you can normally do with animals in RimWorld, so I'm sure they're going to go into more detail about that. We have seen with the first kind of preview they gave us about the Odyssey DLC that we were going to have some new abilities with certain animals and stuff, so I'm looking forward to seeing more about that as well. And so we're going to be looking at a few of the favorite animals. We have crows, flamingos, herons, macaws, and quails. I can confirm crows are my personal favorite, I think, so far. From what I've seen, so I'm pretty hyped about that. Of course, they actually fly. I know I've already touched on that previously, I think in the first preview, but I'm just so excited to see them actually flying. It's a nice little touch, and we can also see that down here with our little DD crow that appears to be in its flight mode. So, murders of manhunting crows may descend on your colony. Pink flamingos wade through warm waters. Colorful macaws flap through the jungle canopy. And chubby quails make a great snack for your colonist. Fun fact, our artist painstakingly drew 24 frames per flyer. That's nearly 400 unique frames of flying. That's a lot of work, and it is very much appreciated as the community seems to be extremely excited. Big ups to Ludion and everyone that's worked on this. We're all extremely hyped. I think I speak for the community when I say that, at least my community. We are all tickled plum pink. We do get some visuals here of some of these animals, and they look so good in the proper RimWorld style, if I do say so myself. I love the crows. I'm so excited. I suppose this is the quail, right? I haven't seen a quail IRL in quite some time, but it'll be very fun hunting those little critters, maybe even a few flamingos. You know, they mentioned that the quails will be tasty snacks, but I don't know, the flamingos look pretty good, you know what I'm saying? So they're also going into detail here about a few other animals. So porcupine's cute and prickly, but try fighting one and your colonists will end up with a face full of quills. So that's quite interesting. So as we see, we do have a small porcupine here, and so the quill is basically actually stuck in the colonist, and it has to be surgically removed. That's what I was thinking might happen. Oh, that's very interesting for anyone who gets into a little scrap with him. I'm curious. I would say that it's a one surgery kind of thing to have them all removed at once. That would make the most sense to me. I was going to say I'm curious if you have to have each one individually removed during a surgery. That'll be interesting to see, but I would assume that it would be one surgery for all the quills as they're quite tiny. We have Bog Hounds. So these tough pups descend from domesticated dogs, but they've adapted to harsh, toxic conditions and are no longer accustomed to human company. They're scavengers that travel in packs, so attacking one means you're attacking all of them. So, essentially domesticated dogs that have once again reverted to their more primal nature, I would say. I think this is really cool, a really nice addition too, because with RimWorld, of course, with the ruins and stuff like that, and the ancient war spiders and tanks and so on and so forth, we get a lot of this feeling of there was a thriving civilization on the planet at one point, and basically it fell, and of course it would make sense they would have domesticated animals that we kind of see go back into this post-apocalyptic world. and they're, you know, surviving the best way they can, reverting to more primal personalities, I suppose, and tendencies, stuff like that. So that's a really cool addition, and I like the way they look as well. So next up we have Colossus Toads and Bullfrogs, the first frogs in RimWorld, chunky, swamp-dwelling amphibians. Personally, I'm extremely excited for this. Some of you may know I actually have a pet Fowler toad in real life. I'll put an image on the screen somewhere. So I think that these new additions are going to be a personal favorite of mine, of course. I do also notice here that one of the colonists appears to be pretty deep in the bog, so that seems to be pretty interesting. Not sure if that's part of the DLC or 1.6, probably 1.6 when people wade through water. Again, I've mostly just been covering the DLC, not really the 1.6 update itself, so I'm not sure if this is an addition to that, but it's an addition to one or the other, and that's good enough for me. But this person's colonist and their pet Colossus Toad seem pretty tickled to be swimming in the bog. Moving right along, we also have otters, walruses, sea turtles, sea lions, and seals. These aquatic friends are found along ocean coastlines. They tend to stick close to the water and not bother anyone, but hunters target them often due to their gentle, unsuspecting nature. So, it looks like we have some nice little friends here, or possibly food, depending on how we're feeling. I immediately noticed the fish. I think at one point, I forget what update it was, maybe the immediate, like the first preview, I had completely forgot to mention that fishing has been added as well, which is very hype. I think fishing is awesome, and it's going to be a great alternative to hunting and growing crops, especially in places maybe like, I would think, I could be wrong, but maybe like sea ice or something like that, or like somewhere very, very cold, essentially, where there's going to be some type of teeny tiny little areas where there's some water, maybe like sea ice, but you're on the coast of the sea ice, you know, so you can actually go out there and fish. I think that'll change that up quite a bit as well. All around though, great additions. I'm loving how the sea turtles and the is that a seal? This one? I think this is a seal, right? Or a walrus? It looks like a, no, this is a seal. I have no idea, but they all look really great, and I'm super excited for all this as well. Next up, we're looking at the Mastadons, scimitar cats, I can't pronounce words, great wolves as well, prehistoric megafauna that roam the glacial plains. So they state here these massive beasts make excellent companions, but they also make excellent fur parkas. You know, I would bet that they do. I do know, I think with the Mastadons, they have the roar ability. It doesn't look like they're touching on that here. I think they did in the initial preview, but they have their own ability. If I had to guess, I would say maybe the cats, or at least the great wolves, do as well. Either way, they look really awesome. I think those are going to be a really fun addition too. Especially these would be fun, I think, for medieval playthroughs or more primitive playthroughs and colonies and stuff like that, especially. But yeah, this is kind of, at least what I can tell, where we get away from more of just like, okay, we've added these animals and they're really cool to have in the environments and to hunt and to tame, and they're cutesy, or they're useful for meat and blah blah blah. And now we get into the more kind of like, these animals have these abilities, and they're not only cutesy and good for meat and stuff like that, or good as fighting pets, whatever, but they're really good at certain things like fighting because of these abilities. So that's, you know, a great addition. I keep saying that about all this, but I'm extremely excited, as I'm sure you could tell. We have the lava snails, one of the few creatures adapted to the extreme heat of the lava fields. They're big, slimy, slow-moving, and often farmed for food. So that would be cool. So you could basically have a base in these lava fields where you have a great big snail farm, which is an interesting concept for sure. They look really good. I know a lot of us on Twitter were going ham when the first like few previews were released, and we saw the lava snail about to get hit by the meteorite. So that's these are going to be a great addition. Again, I keep saying that, but I'm excited about this. They look great. They really do. They're going to be a lot of fun. I also have pet snails at home, so again, a bit of a personal favorite of mine. We have some hippos, so enormous semi-aquatic mammals that you do not want to mess with. Their powerful jaws can crush through armor and bone, so keep your distance. It would be really fun to see maybe a lone cataphract soldier, I'm just going off the top of my head here with stuff, a lone cataphract soldier wandering through the jungle after crash landing their grav ship or something for the Empire, and, you know, getting into a fist fight with with one of these bad boys. That's a fun little concept in my head. We also have hermit crabs and stone crabs. These little guys crawl across coastal beaches like on islands and archipelagos. I can't talk, man. I can't read. They walk sideways too. It's all the excitement. I can't pronounce anything. So we have these small ones. I would guess that they're mostly going to be good pets and maybe small prey for small predators. We do also have now, so pursuing quest will lead you to rare creatures. Rumors speak of the legendary Alpha Thumbbo. Bigger, faster, and stronger than any Thumbbo, and that's pretty damn big, fast, and strong, I would say. And you've received a tip. One has been spotted roaming the wilderness with its herd. If you are quick, you might be able to catch it. Will you attempt to tame and claim it as a majestic ally, or hunt it down and harvest its priceless horn? So let's take a look at that as well. So we have like an entire little squad here. A minigun and a chain shotgun. Hard to say what these other folks have. Mostly because, well, these aren't the colonists, though. It looks like they're some allies, and they're running away from the ability of the Alpha Thumbbo, who looks like a grandpa Thumbbo, if I do say so myself. But he does look good. He or she, they look great, and I love the idea of them having an ability, because Thumbos already are these majestic and mysterious, gigantic behemoths that are pretty friendly for the most part, unless they're not, and then in that case, your entire colony is basically screwed, right? Unless you're very well prepared, which, as we can see here, it looks like this person as well learned that lesson, this colonist. So I love the idea that there's an alpha one that is just so powerful that it's like Roar, or whatever the ability, I forget what it's called, can literally make people flee in terror. A really interesting concept for sure. It looks like we also have a new insectoid. So the Hive Queen. Deep underground, insect hives can merge, creating a single bloated matriarch. She spews sludge and lays egg sacs, which hatch into writhing, acid-spitting larvae. Ugh. Alright, so she's defended by her spawn, including the flying locust. Those that dare to venture into her lair can put her down or attempt to tame the beast. And so we also get a look at her here. Okay, so she has a very fleshy looking design underneath her top half, which is, you know, more of the chitin kind of like exoskeleton of the insectoids. A really cool design, pretty intimidating looking as well as just kind of scary. If I would have saw this without reading this and to fight this kind of boss, I would think that you know, she's going to harvest the inner organs of my pawns after killing them, or maybe even keeping them alive, just enough to keep them alive, and she's going to lay eggs inside of them or something. So a really cool design there, and she looks awesome. Next up, we have some information about how Odyssey expands, how animals can help you around your colony, so different ways to train them. So it says many creatures can be trained to do new tasks around the base. Your fluffy cat or panda can be trained to comfort colonists. They'll nuzzle more often and give a bigger mood boost, because really, that would make anyone feel better. Very true, very true. I like the idea that we can actually train them. I think in real life, I mean, animals, you know, they adapt to humans, and, you know, your cat may do certain things or make certain noises to try and get you to feed it and to nurture it and to love it and things. So it's kind of like that being added to the game, so that's pretty cool too. We have some more examples, I believe. So we have pigs and raccoons can learn to forage, so snuffling out treats like berries from the brush, so they can actually collect berries and things, it seems. Maybe, well, I guess if you have one that can haul, you could basically have an entire colony of animals that can forage, and then have animals that haul the berries and stuff that they forage, so that's pretty cool too. They're definitely going to be much more useful and efficient. Creatures with claws like the Megasloth and Megavole can be taught to dig. They'll slowly chip away at spots you've marked for mining, so they can actually help us out with mining. Predators like wolves, bears, and big cats can be trained to attack specific targets, so you can sick your tigers on the raider that tried to kidnap your wife. So we've always kind of had it where you can release animals, but they kind of just do whatever. They're going to go after an enemy, some enemy, right? So it seems like now we can actually set a specific target for them, similar to how we can with colonists already, of course, as well as turrets and mortars and things like that. Mastadons or elephants to use their war trumpet. So this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier, where we're looking at the Mastadons, so it looks like this is something that needs to be trained, this ability. It's a bellowing roar ability that disorientates your foes, making them slow and clumsy. The Alpha Thumbbo has a similar terror roar that causes enemies to break and flee in panic. So we were taking a look at that earlier. Again, really cool addition. I really like that. If you were in a battle with somebody, I don't care if you have a firearm, what kind of gun you have, if a gigantic ass mammoth is coming at you and doing a big roar, you're probably going to be scared shitless. Maybe you wouldn't run away, but you're definitely going to be a bit disorientated. So that's a really interesting addition. Now they're talking about the Hive Queen again. So if you're bold enough to tame the Hive Queen, she can be trained to use her egg spew on command, launching acidic sludge and birthing offensive larvae. It's disgusting and incredible. It sounds very much both of those. Of course, not every creature is smart enough to be trained. For example, alligators' reptile brains are too simple. But with the sentient catalyst, you can inject Ultratech mechanites into any animal to increase its intelligence and trainability. Suddenly, your alligator can become a distinguished, loyal bodyguard. Okay, so that's a really cool addition, and I'm glad that they added something like that, because now, I mean, you really wouldn't have to mod, which I think most of those mods are fairly, I mean, easy, of course, but I can't tell you how many times I went to do a video, there's a few where it's like, oh, well, I need our animals that we've been taming to be able to attack and to be able to do this, and, well, I didn't get a mod for it, so now I have to go find one, because, you know, initially it wasn't part of the plans. So now you can just inject them with the sentience catalyst, and you can increase their intelligence to have them trainable for a lot of these different tasks. So it's really fun seeing that as part of vanilla RimWorld now too. I think a great way to simplify that entire little paragraph there is basically just, is your alligator too stupid to listen to basic commands? Here, give it this. Now it's not. Now it's pretty intelligent. Last but not least, here we have fishing. So I'm glad we're covering this here in this update too, because again, like I mentioned in the first preview, I completely missed the fact that they've added fishing. So this says, cast your line and catch your next meal from rivers, oceans, or gaps in frozen lakes. Fishing is a reliable way to feed your colony. Available year-round. Absolutely great. That really helps out. I know a lot of people, when they first start RimWorld, or at least for me, what I always had issues with was making sure I had enough food before winter came, because I would do great up until that point, and then people would start starving, right? And that was a big pain in the ass. So this is a really helpful way to kind of counter that. So even when your crops are frozen and wildlife is scarce, it's safer than hunting, as long as the fish don't nip your colonist's fingers, okay? Different waters have different fish. Really cool realism addition, in my opinion, you know, some variety. So you can reel in big marlin and tuna from the ocean, freshwater salmon and bass from lakes, and piranhas from tropical rivers. Lucky fishermen may pull up unusual catches like treasure, drugs, bionic limbs, and other surprises. So that's really interesting too. You can also pull out actual items from these bodies of water. That's a great addition. I keep saying that again about everything. It's all a great addition. It's awesome, right? It really is. That's cool. Especially like the parts that we're talking about don't nip your colonist's fingers. I would assume maybe piranhas could do that. And so it says, skilled fishermen are faster and catch more, but they fish responsibly. Overfishing could empty your only lake. And if gill rot, a parasitic fungus, hits the waters, your food supply could vanish overnight. Smart colonies have other food options as backups like crops or pemmican or wild game. So that, I mean, I'm glad they added that too. So these types of things, of course, overfishing and gill rot, stuff like that, stuff that kind of already affects other food sources too, like wild game with, what is it, it's kind of like the rabies disease, scaria, I almost forgot what it's called, and then blights on crops and stuff like that too. So I'm glad that they didn't make it too overpowered, but, you know, basically you don't have to worry about those other food sources at all to survive. Really glad that they didn't make it too powerful. So they say you can build a sleepy lakeside village with a shanty dock over the water and feed your colonists and pets fresh catches. Trade fish for supplies with passing caravans. Use it as a protein source to cook higher quality meals. You'll also occasionally see animals like penguins, otters, and grizzlies fishing for themselves when they get hungry. But fish aren't the only ones in the water. Colonists now swim for fun. They'll wade into jungle pools, marshy ponds, and hot springs to relax. relax. Odyssey animals swim too, each with unique visuals as they paddle around, and so we kind of get some views of that here too. And this is what we were talking about earlier with the colonist in the bog. I'm a sucker for these animations, like I think in 1.5 it was when they added crawling when somebody's injured and stuff. I just love stuff like that, and it always makes so much sense because you're not exactly just going to be wading through these waters, right? You're going to be able to swim and stuff. Really cool. It's really, really cool. I love all of it. I know somebody in the last update video, they were telling me that they think these statues like this too are maybe like armor stands instead. Maybe those, but these here, there's no doubt in my mind. These have to be statues, people, please. Take a look at this. It has to be a statue, okay? And of course, we only have one more week until the Odyssey DLC releases on July 11th. I think, yeah, in 1 week's final preview, or in next week's final preview, sorry, we'll go over the new quest, the Mech Hive in-game, and other miscellaneous bits in Odyssey. I'm going to try to cover those too. I think I should be free this week to go about covering the last final blog post, so that is very hype, and I am very excited for that. Thank you guys for watching the video. This has been really, really cool to look through all of the new animals and some of the new abilities and fishing and everything that they are adding here. Let me know what you guys are most excited for when it comes to the animals. I want to say I do like lava snails, but I think I'm pretty hyped for Mastadons, as well as the Alpha Thumbbo, but I have a feeling Mastadons are going to be easier to tame, and I'm a lazy boy. Although, this Hive Queen, she's pretty hype herself. She's pretty damn cool, so maybe the Hive Queen. But again, guys, thank you ever so much for watching the video. I love you guys, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.